Tea for tomatoes. Woohoo! We talked about this a little bit the other day. Our big go-to, we normally chop up our tomatoes into different categories. You have the big slicers, which are the beefsteak size tomatoes. You have the plum sauce tomatoes, and then you have the cherry tomatoes. So for our beefsteak style giant tomatoes, we are going to grow the Hossinator from Hoss Tools. In the past, we have grown an assortment of Beef Master and beefsteak and this and that and the other thing, and Hossinator beats them all. Way less splitting, heavy production, great tomato flavor. You got me hooked. We will also be growing Amanda Orange, which was a gift from our friend CB at CB's Garden and Greenhouse, or Greenhouse and Garden. I never remember which way it is. Sorry, CB. We still have the Amanda Orange seeds. We've been keeping it, and we still have some of his original seeds too. But that is a big orange beefsteak style tomato. It is a heritage variety, and it is susceptible to an assortment of issues, but it is so tasty we will grow it anyway. We just grow it downwind in the greenhouse from the other tomatoes, so if there is any kind of light blight or anything that it develops, it's less likely to bother the other tomatoes. We will be growing Red Robin, which is a dwarf tomato that we got from Hoss last year. And just plain amazing, just plain amazing. A bigger than average cherry tomato and big trusses of fruit. Just one silly pot, and we could barely keep up with the quantity of fruit that came off of that. Last year we also grew Yellow Canary, which is another Hoss dwarf tomato. It didn't float our boat as much as the Red Robin. There's also another one, let me see here, that I said I would mention. That's the Hossinator. I'm thinking it has to be at the beginning, but I could be wrong. That's a San Marzano type, so that's not it. Tachi. San Marzano. Rosie Finch, that's what it was. Rosie Finch is another dwarf, and I was only starting a couple of plants last year, and something happened to the Rosie Finch, I forget what, and it didn't make it. So, I need to check and make sure I have a couple of seeds in there. I'm going to try again because it's not fair to judge it without knowing whether it's good. Yeah, we got a whole bunch of seeds in there. So we're going to do the Rosie Finch because it didn't live last year. We'll do the Red Robin. We will probably not do the Yellow Canary. We'll do the Hossinator for the big ones. We have not yet decided which one of the plum tomatoes we're going to grow. I will probably also grow Bella Rosa. Bella Rosa is a tomato that grows about, here it grows about that big. Very productive, it's a determinant. We found they made good sauce because they're very dense and didn't have a lot of water to them, even though they're not technically a sauce tomato. So I haven't decided for sure what I'm going to do for the paste sauce tomatoes yet. Except I will do Bella Rosa because I know that produces well. So we'll see. That's an undecided moment. I have time. So we'll work on that. And that's the last of the teas. I'm probably forgetting something. I usually do. If you think of a vegetable that you'd like my opinion on, let me know. And I'll tell you what, if anything, I'm going to grow this year. One plant in the tomato family that I am not going to spend a lot of effort on this year is husk cherries. We really like husk cherries. They are super delicious. But unless we can figure a way to control the cucumber beetles on them. We thought that growing them in the greenhouse would solve that problem. No, it just means I had a greenhouse full of cucumber beetles. The upside of that was I also had a greenhouse full of ladybugs. They were attracted too. So the ladybugs did great, and they had lots to eat, but it got to be a real pain. And the husk cherries got gross this year. So I haven't decided what I'm going to do about that, because I love the husk cherries. They produce a small tomato-like fruit that's 1/2 to 3/4 inch in diameter. Yeah, about 2 centimeters rather in diameter. Sweet, tropical flavor. They look like a miniature tomato. They have the seeds in them just like a miniature tomato does. They're not tough seeds though, they're not a problem. They have a husk on the outside which either pulls back by itself or you can peel them open. You have to wait till they ripen on the plant before you harvest them. They don't always successfully ripen if you knock them off the plant accidentally or if you pick them off the plant before they're ripe. And they are really tart if you don't get them ripe. So I haven't decided what I'm going to do about that. I hate to give up on them, but if I'm going to do it, I have to have a better solution this coming year. And I don't know what that solution is going to be. It probably depends partially on whether one of my friends can house it or not. So we'll see. We see. Watermelon. We have grown Sugar Baby before, and we were happy with it. And last year we grew Natsu Coco, which is a Johnny's, I believe. Let's see. Watermelon? Specialty. Let's look at the specialty. It wouldn't be in watermelon. Yeah. Natsu Coco. Yes, it's a Johnny's. Our plants got eaten last year. We lost all of our watermelon plants. The only thing that managed to survive was they were all eaten while we were gone out of town. So the only thing that managed to survive was a couple of squash plants. So if I can come up with a better way to keep the rodents out of there. Now the squash beds and stuff are really high up in the air. They're filled with decomposed straw, composted straw from our old straw beds. So they're way up off the ground. So instead of my regular raised beds are about that high, the regular squash beds are about that high. So usually that keeps the rodents out. Not this year. We will have a little bit of rodent damage, but they apparently found this wonderful buffet this year, and that was it. So I have some strategies to work on before the season starts as to how we're going to keep some of these critters from eating everything. In previous years, we had some rodent damage, but there's a difference between rodent damage and coming back and your plants are missing. I have not, knock on wood, seen any squirrels around recently. We have, however, seen several bobcats around. So I suspect that that's where the squirrels are going, and I'm really good with that because the bobcats are beautiful, and I would prefer that they eat the squirrels. They can have an occasional bunny too, but eat the squirrels first, because the squirrels, I can fence out the bunnies, I cannot fence out the squirrels. We have, knock on wood, so far been able to fence out the deer. We have electric fence that we put up that seems to have done the job, and that's great, because we had some huge quantities of deer damage about 4 years ago. But ever since we put the electric fence in, you can actually watch on the game camera. You get a big buck walking down the driveway, and he'll stop and he'll listen. Well, you can hear the electric fence snapping, and he'll kind of go, and then he leaves. So my assumption, I would have loved to have gotten it on video, but my assumption is at some point he touched his nose on an electric fence and decided that was really not where he wanted to be. So that is where we are right now. I have all my Johnny seeds ordered, the ones that I don't already have in stock. I need to place an order with Haas because I like their seed starting mix, and I use the actual, They sell 2 different seed starting mix. They sell black gold, which was good, but I kind of felt like their custom blend was better. So I'm going to go with their custom blend again this year. It just seemed to work better for me. Now, I had really good luck with black gold for years, and all of a sudden, I kind of hit a wall in terms of not doing as well with them. So I don't know what changed, whether it was the black gold that changed, the environment here that changed, something I was doing that I can't even just determine what it was. But last year, I had great success with the Haas Tools seed starting mix, so I'm going to order a bunch of that. And then I need to double check and make sure which of my Haas seeds I also need. And I always watch for new stuff that's coming up. I also ordered from Johnny's a bunch of flowers. One thing that we figured out this past year was that there were things that the rodents didn't like. The big thing that they didn't like was marigolds. And marigolds, if you've ever bumped into them, they're very smelly. And I love the smell. Some people really cannot tolerate the smell. I love the smell. So I ordered a bunch of marigold seeds in different colors. One thing that we like growing in terms of the marigolds is the old-fashioned, they're a single petal thing rather than the big poofy marigolds. I guess that's closer to the original marigold, French marigolds that they came from. And I'm going to experiment with a little bit of what I call barrier planting this year, where I'm going to try planting some solid barriers of marigolds around the outside of some other plants that they really enjoyed eating last year, and see if that helps at all. We also found that the plants that just sprouted up of their own free will later in the summertime, so the self-seeded cosmos and zinnias and stuff like that, seemed to be less bothered by the rodents. I don't know whether it was because it was later in the season and there was more of a buffet out there for them to eat without them having to eat my plants, or whether there's something about the fact that they grew themselves rather than me growing them. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me, but I'll take it. So I actually made sure that we got a lot of the seeds from the cosmos and the zinnias and rudbeckias and all kinds of other plants that we did well with sweet williams and bachelor buttons. Made sure that they're all well seeded. As I'm cutting the flower stalks, I've got a whole bunch of marigold seeds that I save every year, and I always wind up sharing those with the garden club and stuff like that. But because those are marigolds that have been growing here in the garden, self-seeded for probably 8 years. So if they can't make it, nobody can, if you know what I mean. They do get watered and they get some fertilizer, but basically they're pretty much on their own and they make it. And they will last until they freeze solid in the fall. And they make a decent cut flower. You can put them in a tiny little vase inside the house, and they will last for days and days and days, at least a week. So yeah, I actually experimented with some of my other stuff this year too. I never thought of Cosmos as a cut flower, but it worked really well. And I was able to get, these are my veggie seeds, so I don't have my flower seeds out here. I think it was from Haas Tools. I got some beautiful, bright, pinky purple Cosmos last year. Gorgeous, just gorgeous. Definitely going to plant them again too. So yeah, that's what we're doing at this point. That's what our plan is. We're going to reassess some of the stuff in the yard. Our most successful potatoes last year actually came out of a volunteer potato plant that came out of one of the flower beds. Our potatoes were generally a fail. Our sweet potatoes did not do well either. I don't know. I know we lost the tops of our plants so many times that it just may have affected it. It was also incredibly hot at the wrong times of the summer last year. It's hard to guess sometimes what went wrong. What went right was we have tons of green beans still in the freezer. We have a bunch of green beans in containers on the shelf as canned green beans. We ate tons of tomatoes, lots of brassicas, tons of carrots. I still have some fresh carrots in the fridge from our own buckets. So lots of things went right. This year we're going to try and, we have a bunch of work that needs to be done around here. We had a friend help us paint the place this past year, so we have a coat of paint on everything. There's some repairs that need to be done, but at least the majority of stuff is paint, because paint helps to preserve, and that's an important concept. We have some structural work that needs to be done. We have a couple of roofs that need to be replaced and stuff like that. We want to upgrade our solar system again. Yeah, just so much going on. So be sure to come back, like and subscribe, because we're going to have a ton going on. And when we have some major success, like the basil or the Hossinator tomatoes, we will definitely be the first people to share it. We do not grow plants just because they're cool, except for flowers. Flowers are an exception of that. I don't care if a tomato has stripes. I don't care what color it is. What I care about is what it tastes like. And that goes for every type of plant I grow. And I actually was listening to a gardener in San Diego the other day who was talking about the different types of gardeners and the fact that some people are really into like whatever the current newfangled thing is. So I noticed that the green zebra tomatoes were a big deal for some people. Awesome. No, I cannot eat regular green tomatoes. Henry cannot either. We're both sensitive, I should say, to one of the chemicals that is present in unripe tomatoes. I don't know how you tell when a green tomato is ripe. I still have problems figuring out sometimes when the orange tomatoes are ripe, because my brain does not want to accept anything other than a red tomato. I know, I'm a Luddite when it comes to things like this. But we all have our preferences, and that's the point of growing your own. You want to be able to grow what you love. You want to be able to have what you love super fresh, so it's super good. So until next time, bye. Oh, and keep on brainstorming, because obviously we do. Extra.